Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this Cabinet meeting on Tuesday, the 2nd of December. We've got a very long agenda today, so I'm not going to be quite as generous as I have been in the past with questions, and I'm going to stick to the rules of the Constitution, I'm afraid. So we will stick to the 30 minutes for councillor questions, and then on each item, if a member wishes to speak, then it'll be 5 minutes, just one question, comment, whatever it is, for 5 minutes, and there'll be no response to that. But we'll make a start. Sorry, Andrew, it's a long agenda. So, membership, all of the Cabinet are here today, so welcome. Minutes, can I see the minutes of the last meeting? Are they approved as a correct record, please? Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? If so, please let Yolande have those at the end of the meeting. Admission of the public. This is all to be held in public, and there will be no private session. Deputations and petitions. We have none. Questions from the public. We have no questions that have been there is one member of the public who is coming along to speak on a later item, who has already given his notice that he wants to speak on the Marsden Blueprint. And so next item will be straight on to questions from councillors. Joe, Andrew, Matthew, I don't know who's first. Sorry, was there an order? Joe Lawson.
Sorry, apologies, Andrew Cooper, then Joe Lawson.
All right, sorry, Andrew Cooper. Thanks.
Joe Lawson.
Okay, question. Is the leader aware of the government's Solar for Schools programme, £100 million solar programme, being delivered by Great British Energy? 250 schools across the country will benefit from this programme, which has helped schools reduce their energy bills and demonstrates the value of renewable energy in cutting their carbon emissions. In West Yorkshire, 8 schools are scheduled to have solar panels under this scheme. 2 schools in Bradford, 2 schools in Calderdale, 2 schools in Leeds, 2 schools in Wakefield, but no schools in Kirklees. When the scheme was announced in March this year, did Kirklees contact the council to suggest some schools, or didn't we bother?
No, I'm not aware. Sorry, Andrew, no, I'm not aware of the programme. I will just ask if there's anybody else in the Cabinet who might be aware of this. No, I'm afraid we'll have to get back to you with a response to that.
Supplementary?
Yes, supplementary.
So this is money that could have saved off the energy bills of councils if they were installed, if those panels were installed. It could have saved thousands of pounds off schools' energy bills, money that could have been spent on teachers, textbooks and a better education for pupils in deprived areas. So if we have failed to apply for this funding, this follows our failure to apply for millions of pounds of government funding under the Warm Homes Local Scheme and our dismal performance in applying for West Yorkshire Brownfield housing funding. Some time ago, I put it to the council that we establish an opportunities register to track funding and partnerships that could benefit the council, just like we have a register of risks that's on the agenda today. Labour voted against this Green Party proposal. In the light of this and the failures to apply for other funding, will the Labour administration reconsider our proposal?
I'm afraid your proposal to... there was a long question and I missed the bit. Your Green Party proposal on what? Could you just repeat that, please?
Yeah, it was, we suggested that the council, just as it has a risk register where it registers all the risks that the council has, that it also has an opportunities register where it looks at the funding and partnerships that the council could have access to that could help it get more money into the council, because at the moment we're missing scheme after scheme which could bring money in. We're missing tens of millions of pounds simply not coming into the council. Other councils have done it. Why can't Kirklees?
On that very particular point about whether we have a risk or an opportunities register, I cannot say whether we have or we haven't. What I can say is, yes, we did miss one opportunity for funding, but I don't think there is a dismal record of us losing out on funding. There's plenty of funding that we have received from West Yorkshire, from Homes England, from all sorts of different fundings. I don't think we have ever particularly missed out on any funding streams that we could have. The Brownfields one that you particularly referred to, we did receive what we were eligible for under that scheme. There were particular criteria with that, and we did not meet them all. But certainly, I mean, it is a good idea that you're suggesting, a risk and an opportunities, and I will follow that up.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to the recent commendable efforts of the Green Space Action Team, if I was to report in fly tip to Kirklees land within my ward, it would no doubt be removed in about a 4-week window. The last time I reported in 2 public right-of-ways for a cutback of vegetation, this was completed in about 6 weeks. Why is it that pockets of Kirklees land vested with the Housing Department on both Springdale Avenue and Springdale Street in Thornton Lodge are not also being cleared in a similar timely fashion? Why are my residents living on Springdale Avenue subjected to having to live next door to land that is overgrown, fly-tipped, vermin often seen in and around the site, with little to no action, bar from pest control coming out, where the fly tip can be reported in, but it's still in situ for months and possibly years later because it is deemed to be Kirklees housing land. Why is there this disparity in clearing the land just because it is vested with Kirklees housing? After all, this too is Kirklees land. If it was private land, I'd have requested environmental enforcement help in contacting the landowners to get it cleared long ago. My residents deserve better. This is an eyesore and a grot spot that has been there for decades. Can the Cabinet Lead for Housing confirm when the land on Springdale Avenue will be cleared and what measures will be put in place
gone down significantly from 12 weeks to something like 2 now, if not even lower than that. But now I will bring Councillor Crook in to answer about the housing land.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Joe Lawson, for your question. And we have been working together on some of the sites in your ward in particular. What I would say, I'll just join the leader in celebrating the additional resource we've brought for fly tipping across the borough, which I think has reflected resident concern, and I'm pleased that you've noticed an improvement in the response times and in the removal of fly tipping in general. So that's a positive. In terms of land vested with homes and neighbourhoods, we're underway with a review of all of the land that we hold. That's because this government has recognised that the acute housing crisis requires us to build housing, and it is important for us to do an inventory of all of the pieces of land that are potential building plots so that we can maximise increase in housing supply to meet the need that we have across the borough for housing. And that site in particular is one that I've been discussing because it is flat and it is in an urban area, so it may well be suitable for housing in the future. In terms of pest control, you said that there is possible rodent infestation on the land and that only pest control have come to look at it. I mean, pest control attending is really the recourse that we have for visible instances of rodent problems, of course they don't live in isolation, so the likelihood is that rodents only exist where there's a food source, so it's part of a larger problem across a bigger area than just that patch of land. In terms of clearing it of fly tipping, absolutely. If there's fly tipping evident on land that's vested with homes and neighbourhoods, then I'd like that to be reported in, either to myself or to the service, and we will react to that. Obviously, there are hotspots where people repeatedly fly tip, so it may be that fly tipping's been cleared and then has been re-dumped, as it were, or more tipping's been put in place. You mentioned that if it were private land, you'd be able to get it cleared more quickly. I'd be absolutely delighted if you could share with me how that works, because when I've seen waste on private land in my own ward, it's been extremely difficult to enforce any removal. But certainly with respect to homes and neighbourhoods land, fly tipping would be removed. Biodiversity that's built up, not necessarily. I don't necessarily agree with you that the right thing to do is to cut that back systematically and keep the site clear, as it were, and flat. But I do think that we need to maximise use of homes and neighbourhoods land. So I am, underway actively with a programme of trying to bring pieces of land that are vested into use, either disposal or use for housing. So happy to work with you more on that as we go forward.
Supplementary.
My opening remarks actually said how I actually commend the efforts of the Green Space Action Team. I actually went to the Environment and Climate Change to actually thank the team for their efforts and for the work that they've done within my ward, especially around the Hughes Hill Park area. So I'll point you in when I mentioned about going to planning to environmental enforcement. I didn't actually state that it would be quicker. I just stated that would be an option. But unfortunately, because it is Kirklees land, it isn't an option.
Yeah.
You also like I say, I'm well aware that there are plans for the land, but what my residents want at the moment is for that land to actually be cleared to a similar standard that if somebody had dumped their mattress on the fence on the road side of the fence, it would have been cleared. But because somebody chucked it over the top, it isn't being cleared. That is what people actually want. So I will ask is, do you have any inclination of any time that it will take for this land to be cleared?
So thanks again. If there is evident fly tipping on the land now, I would appreciate you reporting that either to myself or to the service, and we will take action to remove fly tipping. There's no problem with that. In terms of clearing the land of everything that's on it, I don't necessarily agree with that as a policy position. Well, we do an audit of the land that we hold to see what's available and what's suitable for bringing forward for housing need. I agree with you. The Green Space Action Team do an excellent job of clearing up our borough in general, but the housing, any land vested with housing and the whole operation service area of the housing function within the council is a ring-fenced financial object within the council, so the housing revenue account cannot be used to fund work on general council land, and vice versa. General council services can't be used to work on housing revenue account held land. So there is a legal impediment to doing as you suggest and just treating housing land in the same way as we do as the rest of the council. But if you report it in, there are different avenues that we can do to commission services to have stuff removed. And if there's a mattress being dumped on housing land, I am absolutely adamant that we will get that removed. Please report it in. We're obviously not aware of every piece of fly tipping across the borough until it's reported, but I do appreciate ward councillors' support in making sure that land remains clear of that type of the blight of fly tipping in that sense.
Matthew McLaughlin or Harry McCarthy, are you here to speak on a particular item? Yeah, okay. In which case, Andrew, have you another question at all? I think Joe might. Joe, have you got another question?
Thank you. All I can say is, with regards to that land, it has been reported in. I wouldn't be here today having not reported in the land. What my residents want is a similar service from the housing team that they would get if the fly tip was the other side of the fence. That's all they actually want.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lawson, for making that clear. I won't take that as a separate question. Okay, if there's no more questions from councillors here, I will move on to item 8 on the agenda, which is the Council Proposed Budget Report 26-27, which incorporates capital, treasury management, general fund revenue and housing revenue account. Councillor Turner.
Excuse me, Chair, thank you. This is the Labour Group's draft budget for 26-27. So subject to Cabinet approval, this draft budget will go out for public consultations starting on the 3rd of December for a 5-week period closing on the 7th of January. As this is a draft budget, I'm just going to take you through the major points of the budget. So this sets out Kirklees' draft budget for 26-27 for consultation, covering, as you pointed out, general revenue, fund revenue, housing revenue account, capital plan and treasury management. Key points to note is this is a balanced budget, as agreed by the Chief Executive Section 151 Officer, and it is based on assumptions from the Fair Funding Review and pending the local government finance settlement. As I said, the consultation is a 5-week public consultation starting tomorrow. We're proposing in this budget a 4.99% increase in council tax. That's a 2.99% core and 2% adult social care precept. Approximately £1.88 per week extra for a Band D property. Savings, we're looking at 6.9 million of new savings for 26-27, mainly through efficiency and vacancy management, which will have minimal impact on frontline services. We will remain prudent in our level of reserves, and general reserves forecast by 26 million at March 2026. There is additional funding of 5.2 million for adult social care, 5.2 for children's services, extra planning enforcement, fly tipping and community support. Capital investment is 1.4 billion, which is a multi-year plan. That's economic, transport and housing. Includes 35 million for a new sports facility in North Kirklees. Release of 57.7 million uncommitted capital budget to reduce borrowing. The HRA, as a separate report, includes rent and service charges increases. Costs are risks, that's around inflation, demand pressures and funding uncertainties remain. I will finish off by saying that this budget is significantly, I mean significantly better than previous year's budgets, and this is the best budget I have been involved with. This is because the current Labour government has recognised the importance of local government and the vital role it plays in the life of our residents, and committed more money through levelling up and recognition of deprivation and fair funding. The poor funding of local government does need addressing if we are to rebuild the country and public services after 14 years of economic mismanagement of the economy. We do have to wait for the final settlement figure for a few more weeks, but whatever that figure is, it will be an improvement over the last 14 years. I am optimistic that we have turned the corner and that in coming years, local government will start to get its fair share of the nation's resources. Chair, I ask Cabinet to approve this and submit it for public consultation.
Thank you. Are there any other... We're not in the council chamber, it confuses one. Are there any other comments that anyone wants to make on this particular item? No? Well, I will second the recommendations. As Graham has already said, it's the proposed budget, and it's therefore here for noting, but we do need to approve the public consultation period, which will begin tomorrow. Are we happy to approve that? Can I see a show of hands? Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item 9, which is the rent and service charge setting for the housing revenue account properties for 26-27. Councillor Crook, can I ask you to move this, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the annual rent and service charge setting report for homes and neighbourhoods properties, which will define the income received into the HRA, the housing revenue account, for the 26-27 period. This report identifies a proposed rent and service charge increase of 4.8% for social housing for that year, for the 26-27 year, which is equivalent to CPI inflation plus 1% and in line with government guidelines. This equates to an average increase of £4.19 per property per week. The report also identifies corresponding inflation-related service charge increases, including for communal ground maintenance, which is capped at a maximum of £1 per week as we move towards cost recovery, and for service charges in our extra care homes. I absolutely recognise that any increase in costs can be difficult for our tenants, especially as we continue to see cost of living pressures exceeding incomes for many. We have a firm commitment to improving our housing in line with, and in many cases ahead of, regulatory requirements to ensure that all of our tenants have warm and efficient, dry, safe and decent homes to live in. This is only possible if our charges keep up with our costs, many of which have increased well in advance of inflation in recent years. This is the third annual inflationary rent increase I've presented to Cabinet, and in past years this increase has sometimes been capped below inflation, reducing the funding that is available to our ring-fenced housing revenue account, which is used entirely to support and invest in our homes and tenants. When national inflation was over 11% in 2023, the rent increase was capped at 7%. This single restriction cost the housing revenue account £3.3 million in that year, and aggregated to a loss of £130 million over the 30-year business plan. To ensure the comfort and safety of our tenants, we need to invest in safe and secure homes. So this report also responds to past rent capping and identifies a potential further increase in rents of either £1 or £2 per week, subject to the government consultation decision on rent convergence, which is expected early next year. This will bring social rents back in line with the assessed requirements for social landlords to effectively maintain their homes. In time, this convergence will allow housing revenue accounts here and across the country to deliver the investment that is so desperately needed, so that all council tenants have the decent home they deserve. Within this report, we also identify nearly £400 million of investments in our homes right across Kirklees over the next 5 years, because we are absolutely committed as a service and as a council to putting the welfare of every one of our tenants first. I propose that Cabinet approve the rent and service charge inflationary increases, potential rent convergent uplift and extra care service charge increase, along with all recommendations in the report, and also that the housing revenue account budget and 5-year capital plan are proposed for recommendation to full council.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Are there any comments on this particular item? Councillor Cooper, 5 minutes.
I don't think I'll require 5 minutes. Just asking about right to buy and the impact on the housing revenue account going forward. I didn't spot anything in there predicting how, because right to buy is continuing. It's the obviously the subsidies are less, and it's becoming more difficult to do right to buy. But I'm just wondering if within here we've got any assessment of how right to buy is going to affect us going forward.
Thanks. I think it's a really important point. Right to buy has resulted in the loss of an enormous number of social homes since the 1980s. It's been a poor policy in terms of providing the housing that people need. To compound that issue, the government of the day then and subsequent governments have also not facilitated councils to build new council homes, the homes that we so desperately need. And you'll remember the various presentations I've given at council that demonstrate this on a graph. What I would say is this government have finally recognised that. So they haven't abolished right to buy, but they have removed the excessive discounts that tenants would receive should they go ahead with right to buy. And they have effectively removed right to buy from any new properties that we build. That combined with the certainty that we have on rents, so CPI +1 for 10 years, plus the rent convergence to move to a formula rent that means that the rent we receive is sufficient to maintain the homes, does give councils now the confidence to build new housing, and we are moving at pace towards having the capacity to once again be a council house building council here in Kirklees to help mitigate the pressure that the acute shortage of housing places on our tenants and our residents in Kirklees. So I expect right to buy to be a significantly smaller problem. You'll be aware that we've lost something in the order of an average of 200 houses per year for the last 20 odd years, which is, you know, a phenomenal loss of housing. I expect that to be considerably lower. Unfortunately, when the government announced plans to change right to buy, we did see a short-term spike in the number of applications for right to buy, and I am waiting for the numbers to stabilise, but it will be significantly below the previous figure and will not apply to new build really critically, so we can build new homes. So thanks for the question.
Supplementary. So that spike could well have had a significant impact. Oh, okay.
Given that we're not quite as pushed as I thought we might be, I will allow you to come back.
Okay. So that spike, it will be interesting to know what that is, because 200 houses a year have a big impact. But if it's going to be double that, treble that, then that's going to have another significant impact. Perhaps it would have been a good idea if right to buy would have just been abolished by the government to stop that spike going ahead.
I mean, I think it'd be a good idea if right to buy hadn't been brought in the first place, because I think, having an aspiration to live in a municipally owned, shared, risk of maintenance and so on council home is a positive way to allow our tenants to choose to live. So absolutely agree with you there. The spike was something like, I think, 600 odd homes in that year. That doesn't mean all of those will go through to actual sales, because obviously some of those people wouldn't have been eligible, some of them will back out of the deal and so on. We also have a programme of buying back right to buy properties. When properties are lost to the to Homes and Neighbours through right to buy, we do have a first refusal buyback option. So I fully expect that we will stabilise at around 21,500 homes, which is about our stock holding now, and then start to increase over the next few years.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Is there any further comment on this particular item? No? Okay. Well, I will second the recommendations here. Can I see all those in favour, please? Thank you. Right. Thank you. We'll now move on to the item 10, which is the proposed updates to procurement strategy. Councillor Dadd, would you like to present this, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this report seeks Cabinet approval for the proposed updates to the procurement strategy prompted by the implementation of the Procurement Act 23 and the provider selection regime. So the Council's existing procurement strategy was introduced in November 22, and since its launch there have been substantial legislative developments, including the implementation of the Procurement Act 23 and the provider selection regime. So whilst the majority of the existing procurement strategy remains relevant, it has been refreshed and updated to ensure alignment with legislation. However, what the report also shows is that Cabinet will today also, we're seeking approval from Cabinet to also introduce an ethical procurement policy and the ethical code of conduct for suppliers. So we've really pushed the bounds on the ethical element to show that as an authority we are driven by social values and that all procurement and contractual activities are conducted with integrity and in alignment with ethical standards. If adopted today, the revised strategy will remain in effect till 2028. So, Chair, I recommend that the revised strategy alongside the ethical procurement policy is adopted by Cabinet today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dadd. Are there any comments on this item? I'm happy to second that item, the recommendations there. Can I see all those in favour, please? Thank you. That is carried. I'll now move on to the Marsden Blueprint, and I will just thank Tom Lonsdale, who's here as a member of the public who wishes to speak on this item. Tom, I will ask Graham Turner to present this first, and then I'll bring you in, and then I suspect more colleagues might also wish to speak on this item. So, Graham.
Chair, thank you. So I will here today to ask Cabinet to note a report on the master plan in Appendix A, approve the master plan, delegate authority to the Executive Director for place with portfolio for finance and regeneration to finalise and adopt the plan. Publish the plan on the Council website to inform investment decisions and approve up to £140,000 for Peel Street design development as the initial priority project, and also delegate authority for legal agreements with external funders. This contains 7 key areas for improvement. Station arrival, which will enhance visitor experience and connectivity. Goodyard site, parking regeneration of homes and enterprise spaces. Lakeside, riverside public space and mixed-use development. Peel Street environment, street scene improvements, streetscape improvements, Peel Street movement, traffic and parking management. Manchester Road, developed opportunities and housing. Links to places, better pedestrian connections. Current allocation of £148,974 from UK SPF and local centres budget. Additional request of £140,000 for Peel Street design, funded by 80k capital and £60k from UK SPF. No full funding delivery for funding is sought at this stage. It will be a phased approach with future business cases as they brought forward. Next steps subject to today's approval. Peel Street design procurement December 2025 to 2026. Design development January to May 2026 and explore further funding January 26 onwards. This is a really exciting project and it will breathe huge new life into Marsden and improve the facilities there and help create and strengthen the community life there. It will improve streets, public spaces, protect the heritage and support the local economy. Deliver affordable housing and promote sustainability. There's been an awful lot of engagement events over the last few years, which has been online surveys, in-person sessions, cooker day displays, etc. We consulted with businesses, parking and wayfinding concerns have been addressed, and the community. And as you rightly pointed out, Tom's here today, who has played a vital role in developing this master plan, and I thank him for his support in developing this plan. So the support from the community for accessibility, green space, traffic management, concerns about parking and housing in the village character. As I say, this is an exciting project and it will bring new life and economic development to Marsden over the next probably 5 to 10 years. So Chair, can I ask Cabinet to approve this master plan?
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I'll now ask Tom Lonsdale to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here to commend this report on behalf of the Marsden community. Marsden is a jewel in Kirklees' crown, but has become broken and slightly scruffy, so hardly performing anywhere near its best. This master plan contains the repair tools and polish for it to shine again, like it did in the 1800s. Consultants Allies and Morrison were admirably quick to see Marsden's outstanding potential. Historic canal, rail and textile engineering and architecture surrounded by beautiful countryside. What's not to like? They also recognised a passionate community that knew what it wanted. We were ready for them because of the close working relationship that had already been developed between Marsden Community Trust and the Council, leading to the What Matters to Marsden questionnaire that generated the master plan brief. That relationship continued with the formation of the Blueprint Community Partnership that I am proud to chair and which has overseen the work. I particularly wish to express Marsden's appreciation to David Wildman, Luke Bride, our supportive ward councillors, and David Shepherd for unlocking the way. The follow-up expenditure recommended in the officer's report is absolutely crucial, without which the words and pictures have little value. We've been here before, though, 16 years ago, in fact over 16 years, at precisely the same point of readiness under Yorkshire Forward's Renaissance Market Towns initiative. All of that momentum was lost under a change of government. That must not happen again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those words of support. That's good to hear. There are 3 ward colleagues here. I will ask Councillor Addy first, and then I'll ask the other 2 colleagues here as well. Thank you, Bev.
Thank you, Leader. I mean, it's hard to put it in better terms than Tom has and my colleague, Councillor Turner, has set out in the report. But, you know, this is not just consultation, it's been real co-production. It's about working together, and the very, very passionate, engaged and active community of Marsden has really had a great input into this, and I'm very proud that the Council has paved a way forward for working together on that. Alongside the professional input, where the public has been able to give challenge and focus and state their needs, and the professionals have been able to find the way to facilitate that. This is about Marsden as a small town, really. It's not just a village, it's centre, and the overarching way forward to develop this into the future for a future, really. Including the needs and wants of the community, alongside other actions that are going on within the community from the community groups, and levelling up money that's prompted private development of a very core piece of the jigsaw in the centre in a former mill. So I'm absolutely delighted to see this coming forward as a report. Peel Street, at the heart of this point of the report, is at the heart of Marsden, and it's core to the proposal, and for the movement of pedestrians and vehicles will really set the scene for the way forward. I'm really excited for the village and the valley as a whole. I thank the community for their input.
Thank you, Councillor Addy, for that. Councillor Harry McCarthy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you as well to Tom for coming to speak on this, Councillor Addy as well. I can't really speak as well as they already have done, but just to say as well, it's been a joy to work on this project. It's been steered by the Marsden Community Partnership, which is a group consisting of the Freed Ward councillors, the Community Trust, local businesses and local community groups. It's been a really innovative and forward-thinking approach, and Allies and Morrisons have been a pleasure to work with. That co-production has meant that the community's voice is really at the heart of all of what we're trying to do here, and I think it sets it apart from many other regeneration projects. I'd just like to point out as well, this is not something that benefits just Marsden. Marsden is the gateway to the whole district. The first glimpse of West Yorkshire that people see out of the window when they get a train from Manchester is Stanage Tunnel Visitor Centre, the North of England Centre for Music and Arts. The area outside the station, particularly the goods yard, is currently massively underutilised, and this plan includes schemes to kind of make that a gateway to Marsden and the entire Colne Valley. The lakeside area as well, to the rear of New Mills, we're absolutely delighted that the government is committed to the funding for the new mill development in the centre of Marsden. This plan helps us integrate that development as much as possible with the entire village to make sure that we have benefits for ordinary Marsdens as well. In particular, one of the things that we'd like to see, and unfortunately was removed from previous plans for the new mill development, would be that very key pedestrian link between the new mill site and a kind of Warehouse Hill Road that will provide really fantastic health and pedestrian benefits to people living in places like Durka and Station Road. And also to make it well, it's fantastic that we have some money available for improvements to Peel Street. My inbox is full of people complaining about parking in Marsden. The extra parking that will come as a result of the new mill development will bring a real benefit to the village, residents and businesses. And we have to absolutely make sure that we continue the work of the community partnership to make sure that businesses are involved in co-producing the plans for Peel Street, which I know that David and the team as well will strive to make sure that they do. And just to finish off as well, improving those links to the wider village, it's a really key part of this plan and this blueprint. Marsden is a fantastic place to live, work and visit. It does have a few drawbacks, like many, many hills, but hopefully this plan can serve as kind of the focal point for us to bring extra investment and extra energy and drive into the village. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor McCaughlin.
Thank you, Chair. Follow that. What can I say? What can I say that hasn't already been said? just say this report is extremely welcome, and it's been a long time coming. As Tom says, a very, very long time coming from certain perspectives. And I would like to start by thanking the Cabinet and the community for providing the impetus for this project, and the fact that we've seen it come to fruition in relatively quick time is testament to the hard work of everybody involved and the leadership of those involved. It's a fantastic opportunity for Marsden to take work that was already ongoing, so the Levelling Up Fund investment in new mills at the heart of the village, the recent resurfacing of the canal towpath from Slough all the way via Marsden to Tunnel End, the upcoming work on the TRU and the redevelopment of Marsden Station, the work of the Place Standards Initiative, the What Matters to Marsden engagement, the action plan of which is ongoing currently, the mass tree planting by the White Rose Forest, the National Trust and the Core Valley Tree Society. All of these things were happening independently, but the blueprint is a mechanism and a vision to bring all of those things together into one cohesive plan for a blueprint, for lack of a better word, for Marsden. The engagement and groundwork by all those involved right from the very start, building on the engagement from the Place Standards, has been exemplary. The buy-in we've managed to get from the community for the consultations has been healthy, it has been numerous, and it has been progressive. So it's constantly moved things forward, and we've been able to bring together various consensuses through the work of that partnership, which I say is a very representative group of people from key parts of the village life in Marsden. But of particular note is the work of Luke Bride and David Wildman from the council, all the members of the partnership, but in particular yourself, Tom. You're honestly, none of this would have happened or been anywhere near as high quality without your expertise and your work and your dedication and leadership. So on behalf of all of us, on behalf of Marsden, thank you. And let's get on with it. Let's see it done.
Right, thank you. Any further comments? Graham.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was a bit sad that Yorkshire Forward got taken out by a political decision, because we would have had, a fantastic opportunity. Having said that, this is not Yorkshire Forward. This is this council and its partners working on this plan. We will deliver on this programme, and as I said earlier, there's 5 to 10 years worth of work at least going into Marsden. And I've dealt with many regen projects, many investment programmes over the years, in many communities, and this has not been derogatory to any other communities, but Marsden are by far the best group of people that I've worked with. They're committed, they work together as a community, and they're all pulling in the right direction. They all want the best for Marsden. So I'm really, as I said earlier, I'm really excited about this, and I think we've got a fantastic opportunity. So, as I said earlier, Chair, I wish Cabinet to approve this, and as you're out and say, let's crack on with it.
Right, thank you, Councillor Turner. I will second this, the recommendations here, and they are to approve, but also to, as Graham has already said, to delegate to the Executive Director for Place, in consultation with the portfolio holder, some future decisions that will need to be made to get the project moving and cracking on with it. I have to say, I do think it seems to, this particular blueprint and the work that's been done, it does seem to set a standard which we should all try to adhere to, and certainly future blueprints, but other perhaps projects as well that regen or otherwise that we might be undertaking. So a thank you again to the well, my thanks as well to the residents of Marsden and all the work the officers and the councillors there have put in on that. So it's been approved, moved and seconded. Can I see all those in favour, please? Thank you. So right, crack on with it. Thank you. Moving on then to the next item, which is item 12, financial monitoring, and this is Graham Turner.
Chair, thank you. So this is a report to update Cabinet on the Council's financial position as of month 6, which is the 30th of September 2025, for general fund revenue, dedicated schools grant and the housing revenue account. General fund forecast an overspend of 5.1 million, down from 5.9 million at Q1. The lowest Q2 overspent since COVID. Main pressures, we've seen a slippage in savings delivery of 16.6 million. Demand-led pressures in children's services and adults and health. The overspend will require use of reserves if not reduced. The DSG in-year deficit of 14.7 gives us a cumulative deficit now of 78.5. Safety valve agreement gives us 2.15 annual contribution for 5 years, and this is a statutory override was extended to March 2028. The HRA forecast underspend of 318,000, year-end reserves forecast at 19 million. Pressure remain on building safety and disrepair cases. Improvements noted, but there have been huge improvements on the damp and mould, and credit to the team for reducing those really significant issues which we know affect people's health. And capital plan, there's a excuse me, revised budget of 254.6. That's down 29.3 million from the original capital plan. 28.9 reprofiled into future years. 0.8 increase from grants. Section 106. Key approvals requested, community cohesion grant of 170k. The mayoral renewables grant phase 1, 110,000, and draw down 250,000 from investment and modernisation fund for LED upgrades in leisure centres. Revenue capitalisation exercise planned saves us £1 million to help offset overspend. Treasury management, prudential indicators noted an underspend of 1.9 million due to lower borrowing costs and interest income. The overspend is driven by savings, slippages and demand pressure on children and adults. Directors are tasked with identifying actions to reduce overspend. Recruitment controls remain in place, and the DSG deficit continues to impact on cash flow. So recommendations: the Cabinet note Q2 positions for the General Fund, the DSG, HRA and Capital Plan, approve capital injections and drawdowns as outlined, delegate authority for acceptance of mayoral renewables grant, phase 2 if successful, and endorse ongoing measures to manage overspend and review capitalisation opportunities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Are there any particular comments on the financial monitoring report? No? Okay, I will second that report. Can I see all those in favour, please? Thank you. Right, moving on to the Q2 for the years 25-26 Council Plan and Performance Update report. I shall introduce this and move the recommendations here. I mean, this report gives a narrative against an update of each of the 4 Council Plan priorities and also the 25-26 Council key measures. It also provides sort of a highlighted performance in terms of our transformation portfolio. I mean, that's in Appendix A and B. I mean, this has been particularly sort of highlighted this time because I certainly feel it's something which supports so much of the work that we are doing to improve our services and perhaps gets overlooked from time to time. So it's highlighted here in this report. The key highlights, and I think in this quarter there are more highlights to raise than there were previously in the last quarter, but the timeliness of education, health and care plans has improved. The proportion of looked after children who have been in the same placement for 2 or more years has improved over the last 12 months. The percentage of freedom of information requests completed in time has increased during the last 12 months, and I think that's despite, which I know we've had a lot of freedom of information requests, so I have to say well done to the team for increasing that percentage. Collection of business rates has also been higher over the last 12 months, and another quite pleasing measure is the number of open damp, mould and condensation cases continues to reduce, and that's been quite a significant reduction in those cases. Also, the proportion of non-emergency housing responsive repairs has been completed within the timescale has also increased, which is good. And then finally, the percentage of mothers smoking during pregnancy has reduced. A couple of issues that we still need to keep our eye on. The number of people open to adult social care has risen by 10% over the last 12 months, which is a significant increase, with over 70 people being referred in the last 3 months alone. Collection rates for council tax are a bit lower than they have been over the last 12 months, and also sickness days of staff has increased slightly. That is 0.19 days higher than it was 12 months ago. So those are 3 significant issues that we highlight as in need of improvement in that report. I say the report is here for noting, but are there any other comments that anyone wishes to make? Councillor Crook.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'd just like to pick out, and I think you've already identified this issue in particular, I'd like to pick out and celebrate a couple of key achievements from the really positive transformation that's taken place over the last year in homes and neighbourhoods. Our damp, mould and condensation issue is now fully under control across housing, with our caseload down from a peak of around 2,000 cases to under 200. That's a phenomenal order of magnitude reduction in outstanding cases. Our numbers are now consistently well below our modelled business as usual position, despite the expected seasonal increase, and with spare capacity in place should any uptick in cases be seen as we move into colder weather, even colder weather. All service responses to damp, mould and condensation are also fully compliant with AWAB's law, which recently came into force and imposes strict timeframes on resolving any cases of damp, mould and condensation that do occur, either through direct reporting by tenants or through the complete stock condition survey that we also have underway, or by any other incidental reporting from any representative who becomes aware of an issue. I want to be absolutely assured that no tenant will live with persistent damp, mould and condensation issues in our homes, and the service has acted to ensure this is the case. So a huge thank to officers who have delivered this fantastic improvement for our tenants. We've also now successfully completed a full fire risk assessment programme on all properties requiring fire risk assessments, and we have now also completed a review of our fire and building safety programme. We now have a detailed 5-year investment programme, reduced from 7 years, that will ensure all our homes meet the required legislation. This means that work will be carried out at the earliest opportunity to address all required actions and recommendations. And please can I just reassure Cabinet that any and all outstanding actions are fully mitigated, and we do our full assurance in the safety of our tenants at all times. Again, I'd like to thank officers for the outstanding work they've done in this service area. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Any other further comments that anyone wants to make on this matter? No, as I say, it is here for noting. So I will move on now to the next item, which is item 14, the Corporate Risk Report, Quarter 2, 2025-26. And I believe Councillor Turner is going to present this.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. This report is here today for noting by Cabinet. So can I ask that we note the report and its contents?
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Any comments on this item? No? Okay, thank you very much. As Councillor Turner said, it's here for noting, so I will now move on again to the next item, which is item 15, which is the update on the LGA peer review report. And I shall present this. As I hope you're all aware, I mean, the Local Government Association first came to Kirklees in November 24 to carry out a corporate peer review or challenge, which is part of the LGA's improvement and assurance framework. Based on their findings, the LGA produced a report which contained 8 key recommendations, and then in April 25, the Cabinet then agreed an action plan which set out in improvement activity in response to those recommendations. An initial progress report against that action plan was received by Cabinet in July 25, which showed good progress being made on all of those actions. And then in September 25, the LGA returned to carry out a progress review, as is part of the contract that we have with them to do this. The LGA produced a report from that visit which outlined their findings, and a summary of that is included in this report with the full version appended to the report. This report also provides Cabinet with another progress update against the actions in the action plan. Note that the most recent progress update produced by Kirklees Council officers against the LGA recommendations from their first visit in November 24, and the associated action plan is here at section 2.3. The full list of actions is in Appendix A, with a delivery status for each of those actions noted. And it's interesting, I think, to note that of the 42 actions that we had in the original report or action plan, that all bar one of those has been either completed or is certainly on track to be completed within the time allotted to it. The only one which has not, it's been delayed because of an external factor, in this case the government. That is reviewing the capital programme, and we are awaiting outcomes of government funding decisions to ensure that that too is completed within the timescale. So I think, all told, it was a very useful experience. The LGA will not be coming back again, but we will continue to work on those recommendations and to make improvements wherever possible. So any comments from anyone on this? No? As I say, it's here for noting, so I will move on then to the next item, which is item 16, which is the surplus property report, and Councillor Turner is going to move that. Thank you.
Excuse me, thank you, Chair. So the purpose of today's report is to seek a Cabinet approval, delegated authority for the Capital Receipt Scheme, CRS, December 2025, enabling disposal of surplus land and property to meet capital street targets aligned with the Council's approved budget and capital strategy. Cabinet is asked to approve the disposal of listed assets in CRS December 2025, Appendix A. Delegate authority to the Executive Director for place to negotiate and complete sales, along with the Sierra Service Director of Local Government Finance Commissioner to execute agreements. Council tax, we've got 6 million capital receipts for 25-26. We're currently at £4 million for 26-20 and a target of £4 million annually for 26-27 onwards. Disposals reduce revenue costs, support regeneration. Assets have identified as surplus include sites with no strategic operational value. So the key sites in this one is Mill Lane, Hanging Eaton, Batley, which is in Mixed Council charitable land. Batley Bath, which has been closed since 2023. The community asset transfer attempts failed despite the best efforts of the local community to try and do that, get a cat across the going. The high maintenance backlog proved a little bit too far for them, but congratulations for the time and effort they put in there trying to get that over the line. Lockwood Road, St Stephen's Road, Redlace Court and Havelock Street in Ravensthorpe, which are linked to adult service redesign, potential housing, commercial development. These sales supports the capital programme and reduces borrowing and gives us a revenue savings of 76,000 at Batley Baths, 104,000 at Brad Lanes, and 4% of receipts allocated to staff costs for disposals. Disposal of the Local Government Act 1972 gives us the best consideration, and compliance with General Disposal Consent 2003 and the subsidy Control Act 2022 and housing legislation CAT and AOEC processes may apply. There was consultation with all ward members. That was carried out between October and November 2025. Following the consultation with ward members, it has been agreed that the site on Lockwood Road will remain on the list but will not be considered for sale until a period of 6 months have passed. This is to allow the ward members to try and find a community group who may wish to develop it as a community asset. If no community asset use is forthcoming, then it will proceed to disposal as of the after 6 months. So, Chair, can I ask Cabinet to approve this report here today?
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I will second that report. Are there any comments on this? No? Oh, sorry, Councillor Lawson.
Thank you. It's actually a comment raised by Councillor Ali Arshad, who is unable to be here today. He notes that there are a number of parcels of land within the Heckman Dwight ward, one in particular off Cemetery Road that is being maintained at the moment by a constituent who has frequently asked why he cannot purchase this land, even if he's quite willing for it to go out to public auction. And Councillor Arshad just wondered if we could actually look at the process of how land is identified. And obviously if somebody could come back to him on that. Thank you.
Councillor Turner, do you want to?
Yeah, so we have a review of all our assets and decide whether they're strategically important and whether we need them. We have a very small team. If those assets are declared surplus, then we prepare a report which comes to Cabinet for approval. We can only do so many sales per year due to the size of the team and the work involved in preparing these. Some of these sites, it can be quite complicated with lots of legal input, legal advice sometimes needed. So it is a quite timely process in many cases. So we can only do so many a year, and we do as many as we can during the financial year. It's also important that we don't, in effect, flood the market. So we release them in batches to keep the price of these properties and assets as high as possible. And that's why we go out to auction, because we find that we get the best price when we go out to auction. And that's really the issue. With too many properties, but not enough staff. But they work really, really hard to get these across the board. And we will dispose of our enough assets this year to meet our financial targets this financial year. And it's looking good already, looking at next year, because we're obviously working on projects for next year as well. So that's the issue. Too many bits of land we'd like to sell, not enough people to do it, and we don't want to start a fire sale and stall the market.
Councillor Kendrick, you wanted to come in.
Thank you very much, Chair. There is a history to this piece of land that perhaps Councillor Arshad isn't aware of. And when I say this, Councillor Turner will know exactly what I'm talking about, because the last 4 or 5 years I've been about this. The person in question fenced off a piece of council land, told other residents he bought it, and he hadn't. I've been pushing, and I'm still not clear if he's leasing this land now. There was some he wouldn't agree to a lease for long enough. And I have a lot of residents who are very distraught, saying, if this was for sale, why wasn't it put up for auction so other people could bid for it? So it's a lot trickier than one might think.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Cooper, you wanted to come back in? I'm not sure about this ending up as a debate going across.
It's not to be a debate, but one of the pieces of land that's on the schedule here is in pretty much exactly that same situation at Lockwood, the junction of Lockwood Road and St Stephen's Road, where it's been an ongoing issue and a problem where somebody has asserted that he owns the land but has provided no evidence whatsoever, and that is, I think that's now going to come to an end after a period of some fraughtness, I think.
I don't know that you need to come back out on all of this, Councillor Turner, but if
on,
you wish.
I'm well aware of the Hepburn one, and believe you me, Councillor Kendrick does remind me on a regular basis. Just going back to the one that Councillor Cooper is referring to, I had an interesting weekend with the gentleman who claims to own it, shall we say, who was ringing me at 9:15 on a Friday night, telling me he owns this piece of land and I should remove it from this sale. Then again, he told me I had a long conversation with him Saturday morning, and he proved very difficult to get off the phone. I've had a conversation this morning to confirm that the land is in the council's ownership, despite what he says, despite him giving me a lecture for over an hour and a half on the history of that piece of land. I'm assured that it is our land, and that's why we propose to leave it on this list. And as I said, you've got 6 months. If you can find a community group to take it, that's fine. If not, then we'll go for disposal.
This is a bit of casework, really, Andrew.
It is, but I'll just... there will be a proposal, or there is a proposal from a community organisation that's going to be on the table shortly for consideration. So, yeah, and no doubt the character who you were speaking to may have some views and opinions about that, but his views, opinions and beliefs are not matched, unfortunately, by any evidence that he might want to provide.
I think there are any further debate needs to be taken outside the room.
Yes.
Councillor Lawson.
It's quick and to the point. It's just to thank Councillor Kendrick for the clarification, because there's always two sides to a story.
Okay, thank you. With that little embellishment of the disposal of surplus properties, Councillor Turner has moved it. I will second it. Can we approve it with the delegations from the recommendations? Thank you. Right, the final item is the Huddersfield Health Innovation. Sorry, I've got HHIP. Let me get the title out. Huddersfield Health Innovation Incubator Programme item. And Councillor Turner is going to move this.
Yeah, Chair will move this. Yes, it does trip off the tongue, doesn't it? The Health Incubator will provide a wraparound support for health, wellbeing, life sciences and digital tech businesses, start-up and scale-ups. It will be delivered in partnership with the University of Huddersfield, the 3M Buckley Innovation Centre, and builds on previous successful initiatives, e.g. Thrive programme, and complements the University's National Health Innovation Campus and the wider regeneration of the station to stadium enterprise corridor. The key components of this is Thrive startup support through workshops, mentoring, networking for early stage businesses. Workspace provision in the Glass Box Business Centre and Health Business Innovation Centre in the Emily Siddon building. The Health Innovation Makerspaces, specialist equipment and academic NHS expertise, SME growth support, tailored advice and access to university facilities. This is a total delivery of 2,023,576 and 25p. Don't forget the 25p. The allocations of 3M Buckley up to 934,000, £52 in there, 85p. The university up to £293,872.50p. The council will act as a accountable body and will manage its compliance, claims and reporting. The expected outcomes of this, we're aiming to support 50 start-up businesses, deliver 100 workshops and events, facilitate 20 academic NHS business collaborations, develop 10 innovative product services and create 26 new full-time jobs. The governance of this is a programme board with the Council of University and 3M Vic and an advisory board of the academic, clinical and business stakeholders. This is one thing we should be really welcoming. This is the start of the station to stadium gateway, this level of investment will attract further investment, and over the next few years, in fact, we have a planning application in on Thursday for our world-leading company, Paxman Cooling, for a new factory a little bit further down than that. So all these 2 years we've been telling you that this is the right thing to do, and this will attract investment, create jobs, bring world-leading businesses, innovative businesses into Huddersfield. This is a kickstart for that, and I can only see this growing over the next few years as we attract other businesses and external investment. So, Chair, I welcome this report. I'm really excited about this kickstarting that whole stadium, station to stadium programme. So I recommend Cabinet approve this and accept the over £2 million investment in Huddersfield.
Councillor Addy, you want to comment?
Yes, please. I too massive welcoming of this investment from Wicker into the development of the Health Incubator Hub. Huddersfield's got a massive history and Kirklees of health innovation and manufacturing, and this really is a key to moving forward with our key partners in the university and the incoming businesses and the growing small businesses out of that. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome this, and as Graham says, it's a great start moving along that corridor, but what a way to start.
Right, thank you. I will second this, and in doing so, I will just point out that this is some funding that we are receiving and accepting from West Yorkshire, and I will also take the Chair's prerogative to actually at this point to bring Councillor Hawkins in to answer Councillor Cooper's earlier question about solar panels.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, just to clarify, the Solar for Schools funding is actually joint funding from the DFE and GB Energy, and they have been proactive in picking the schools, mainly through disadvantaged communities, to ensure those that are most affected by high energy costs benefit first. Much of the funding is tied to the DFE's decarbonisation pilot run by Located, which focus on region primarily in the northeast and the northwest. I know in our region we have 10 schools have benefited from, but it's been very much by the government have picked those in a similar fashion to how the school breakfast clubs were picked sort of by government initiative as well. I think the leader earlier on did say that we're going to go away and sort of clarify this a bit further, but that's the briefing I've been reading.
Really are pushing my largesse, aren't you, Andrew? But go on.
Well, I think that the government wouldn't pick schools without some reference to the local councils. I would imagine it wouldn't pick them out of a hat. And is it really right that somehow Bradford, Leeds, Wakefield, Calderdale all have schools, but Kirklees doesn't? What's happened there? How come no Kirklees? And yeah, I'm aware it's a scheme being delivered by Great British Energy, but it was announced in March. And so if it was announced in March, surely when we saw that, we would have looked at that and thought, well, there's an opportunity here for us to put some schools forward. Did we or didn't we?
I believe Councillor Kendrick wants to come back on that. But I mean, I am really stretching the boundaries here and allowing you to debate this. But Councillor Kendrick.
Just for Councillors' information, I've had a look at this scheme, and actually schools themselves have to apply for it, not the local authority. They have to look at to see whether they're eligible and can fit the criteria. They apply, not the council.
And I will close. I'm going to. I am going to close that debate here. And I'm sure further information can be provided to you from either Children's Services or from Councillor Hawkins and Environment Services. So it has been moved and seconded. So please can we just see that last item agreed, please? Thank you. Right, thank you. And with that, I will close the meeting. Thank you.